well, we're boring our second hole, and we're just going to go down 1 inch or something like that. In fact, how far are we going to go? We are going to go a little under an inch. 950. Okay, before we do anything else, I think it's time to get these cable locks in where they belong. Now, what we have to do is, if the cable locks were left to their own, they would tend to slide out as they were pulling the cable. So we have to build a small keeper to keep them from coming towards me. And I've pre-drilled some holes here, so we're going to go ahead, and these actually aren't the clamps. These go to this one right here. So, but the other ones are over in the mill, and we're going to square them up and get them all set and take some measurements and drill our holes so that the locks can be put in place. All right, so we cut two pieces of material, but it turns out that one's a little bit wider than the other, and I really want to bring those in so that they're equal in squareness. Now let's make sure that we're... Okay, it just started raining. Been waiting all morning for it. You kind of hear it hitting the roof there. All right, so we're going to crank this up. We're going to drop that down. Okay, so now we've got this top edge squared up. I need to square off this the ends so I have something to measure to. So we'll just drop this down and come in. Okay, we've got our end squared up and our top squared up, or our facing surface is squared up. So let's go ahead and disconnect this. And we still have this surface to do, but we haven't measured it yet. We need to cut it and all that. So right now we've got some pretty rough edges. I'm going to take it over to the grinder and go ahead and knock those edges off. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, let's drill some holes, and we've already started drilling a couple of them, so we'll finish that up soon. All right, we just punched through. We've got this one last hole to pilot drill, and then we'll come back in with the 5/16 and do our final. And there we go. Now I'm going to come in and countersink those, but I think I'll just do it with a hand drill. I'm going to retrieve this drill bit and put it back where it belongs, because this is part of my complete set. And I'll be back. And in reality, it's just easier to do it by hand here. There we go. Let's give that a try. Okay, let's see how these are going to go here. I'm thinking this one goes here. Looks pretty good. Now we need to do the same thing over here, except that this one the holes haven't been drilled yet. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and clamp this down and drill the holes all at one time, both holes. So then I don't have to do any measuring. But we notice that the ends are still rough, so we're going to go in and square up that end. And it looks like these are pretty square up as far as width is concerned. So we'll go ahead and do that and come back. Okay, well, lucky for me, this thing actually fits in the vise. So I can just put it in, drill my holes. But first, before I drill my holes, this is going to be my facing surface. So I'm going to come in and surface this and come up with a nice finish. Let's see what we got. Okay, so at this point we cut one direction, so we're going to go all the way up and back over and cut that same direction to get the same pattern. At this point it's a visual. Now it's entirely possible he's going to have me paint this whole thing, so all of that will disappear. But if he doesn't, then it's probably going to end up being this way. And if I learned anything as a jeweler, it's all about what things look like. Okay, well, I can do a full-on setup here and clamp this down and get everything all set up, but why not just drill a pilot hole? Hang on to it. I do it often. Well, good morning. Nick Collier here, and we're continuing with this sewer slinger project. We've got a little bit of a problem here. I mean, each step is a problem, of course, one to be solved. And so I'm going to bring you in closer and let you look and see what we got going. Okay, we're going to look at the ram part of this piece. Now remember, this upper part here is going to be up, and so gravity is going to be able to lock these cables, no sweat. I mean, when the cable starts to pull, these little sliders will just slide down until the cable actually locks. So that's not a problem. The problem comes when we go with the return cable lock, which is this one. And this one will be actually upside down. And we're going to spin it so you can kind of see how it's going to sit. And so the cable locks won't have gravity to pull them. So their tendency will just to fall out. So what we have to do is we have to first, I've got a 3/4 inch drill bit in there because that's the cable he wants to use, is 3/4 inch cable. And we'll square these up. And then what I have to do is come in with something that's going to allow these cable locks to release a certain amount. And then when it comes time to go the other direction, pushes them up against that taper so that the cable has a chance to lock. Now what I've come up with is a small compression spring that'll go right behind here. And so what I have to do is I have to build a little ledge that comes down that I can screw this compression spring into the cable lock itself. And so then the screw will slide back and forth through a hole in the clip here, and the spring will actually push the cable lock. In fact, it will always be pushing on it, but you know, of course, at certain times when the cable pulls this way, the cable will be stronger than the spring, and it'll bring it back this far and allow it to relax, and the cable won't you know, it'll be able to slide. So then when it pulls the other way, the cable locks and the whole thing can't slide anymore. Okay, so we're going to take these retainers, and we're going to put our clips right on top of that. I've machined that edge. We machined this edge, so we've got a full 90-degree connection there. It shouldn't be any slop. We'll put a set of clamps on here. Oops. There we go. All right, now that sits pretty square on the table, and I think we can just go ahead and throw a bead inside of here, because nothing's going to be touching there. What's going to be touching is the spring coming in from there. So let's go ahead and give that a bead. First thing I want to do is heat everything up because it's pretty cold in here. So let's go ahead and crank up our torch and give ourselves a little bit of heat. Yeah, well, you can see how long it's been since I cranked up the torch. So they say 200 to 400 degrees, and I just took it probably up to about 800 right in that corner. So we're going to let it cool just a little bit before we weld. Make sure we're all squared up. Are we? We weren't. That looks pretty good now. And throw a quick bead in there. Yep, not bad. Not bad at all. Now it looks like it's torqued just a little bit, but I think I can handle that just by tweaking it back just a tad. And I think what we'll do is go ahead and put our bead in the back just while we're sitting here. Yep, that looks pretty good, and it may have actually pulled it back. Have a look. It's almost back where it needs to be. In fact, I might just be able to just be totally comfortable with that. That looks pretty good. All right, I'll do the other one and we'll be back. Okay, so we've got our tabs welded on. Now what I want to do is just come in and kind of clean up these welds and bring those back to some kind of normal. So we'll go ahead and go in. Okay, we got our two clips in place, and I drilled a couple holes in this thing and could not get that to center out on the threaded hole down below. So what I'm going to do is I've set it up in the Bridgeport. I'm going to bring my bring my table over until I can point right at that hole. So I'll take this clip off, point directly at that hole, pull the table down, put the clip back on, and then drill my hole. And actually what I have to do is drill a hole and then make just a slight bit of a slot, because this thing, as it travels up and down, moves back and forth, so it needs to have a little bit of clearance. So we're going to drop it down first. And then bring it over. And we'll do the nearest side first, why not? So we'll put a number 7 in here and clamp it down. Bring it over until we've indexed right on top of the hole. That looks pretty good to me. I don't know, can you see it from there? Not so much. Let's flip you around to the other side. Oh, much better. Okay, so, and that thing's just dropping right into the hole. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this table down a little further. I'm going to put my bracket back on. All right. So there we are. And I'm a little bit off from that hole. Can you see that? No, you can't. Let's get in a little closer and see if we can see it. And as I said, I measured that hole and measured it, and it still came off. But it's pretty close there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 1/4 inch mill bit and drive it down through that hole, because I'm totally located now. It should do the trick. Let's speed this thing up. Alright, let's get a little oil on that. And that doesn't look like a 1/4 inch now that I've drilled the hole. And I don't know, might be. But either way, we can go ahead and do our milling. Let's slow this down a bit. And we're just going to drive it the X direction. Oh, probably halfway across that piece of material. Well, I'm looking at it, I'm not seeing a 1/4 inch. So we're going to get a larger bit here. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Let's get a 1/4 inch bolt and see if it's going to work. Okay, the next step in this process, in order to clear those little clips that I built, we're going to have to take a section of material out right in these two parts right here, all the way down to the level of the cable clearance. So we're probably going to take this in 3 steps. Hey, let's just get started. Let's see how close we are to the edge there. That looks pretty good, actually. Now we're going to want to start back in here with this side. So I'm thinking the best thing to do is just come in all the way to halfway and dig in from there. Let's turn our DRO on. Now we're going to zero out on everybody and crank it up, crank it down to low speed. There we go. We'll take it down a 1/3. That's about good. We're going to lock all our gibs in. And just start walking this baby in. Okay, we've got one final cut to make on this piece, and what we're doing is we're reducing we put it on the saw yesterday, and now we're reducing it down to the exact size that it needs to be in order to clear that bolt. And it looks like we're going to make our first pass here, and that's just going to be about just the right height. Okay, our piece is done. We still have a little bit more machining on this block, but at this moment, it looks like it fits perfect. The little clips go in. There's room for the clips to move back and forth. There's room for the cable to go in through the center here down to the pulley. And as far as I can tell, everything's looking pretty good. There's all the way out to the end. We're looking at about 2 feet out there. So this is going to be one heavy, heavy piece of equipment. So far, just the part you're looking at, I'm guessing weighs about 200 pounds. Each of those red rams are 60 pounds. This piece here is a good 80 or so. this piece is, it just keeps adding up. So what we have to do next is we have to come in and we're going to put a couple of bolts right through all the way into this block. Now, I believe what I want to do is I want to come from the bottom of the block with some bolts and latch into this smaller block here. And then what we have to do is we have to set some bolts from here going this direction that'll go into the, and we're going to swing around, that are going to go into the aluminum block here, and which will give us a good platform to work with. And then, of course, the cable goes down to the wheel and goes out into the earth.